Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My friend from Ohio, the ranking member, has attempted to discredit the purpose of this hearing, and in the process discredit those of us who raise questions, legitimate questions, about the pricing of a life-saving drug. I'm here because of one of my best friends. His name was Rick. He developed AIDS in the late 80s when there was no cure. He died when my daughter was just a few months old, in 1991. I spent a lot of time with him during the illness. I saw its progression. I saw his suffering. Terrible symptoms. It ultimately went to his brain, and he started hallucinating. Maybe there was a blessing there because he was not any longer aware of his suffering. He lost his job because of the illness and was uninsured, and he didn't have access to health care. He went to a homeopathic clinic because he was hopeful maybe that would work. It seemed to only make his suffering worse. So, Mr. Jordan, I'm not here to discredit an American company or Mr. O'Day. I'm here for my friend Rick. I'm here to make sure no American has to go through what Rick went through, and that drugs are available to people who are suffering. And I would say to you, Mr. Jordan, that is a legitimate source of inquiry. I'm not going to yield because I'm going to run out of time unless the chairman grants me more time. So I just want to make that really clear. Most of us absolutely subscribe to the thought that a drug company has to recover profits because it recovers costs and legitimate R&D that can produce more life-saving drugs. But the question in front of us is, how much is enough? How high do you go to the point where it becomes a barrier to access? It may help your bottom line, but it doesn't help people like Rick. And I think that's a legitimate form of inquiry. And given that, one notes that right now, the cost of Truvada is about $70 per day if you're paying full freight. Is that correct, Mr. O'Day?
That's correct.
In Canada, it's $5 a day. In Australia, it's $7 a day. And to be fair, in Canada, that's generic. For the branded product, it's $20 a day, not $70. Now, they have different systems, but it's the same drug. Mr. O'Day, when Truvada was first approved as a treatment in 2004, you had a list price of $800 per month. By 2012, when you were approved for preventing HIV transmission, that price had almost doubled to $1,400 a month. In your statement today, you claim you did not increase the price of Truvada when it was approved in July of 2012, correct? That's in your statement.
There was an increase in 2012.
Yes.
But it was over the past since 2004, the average increase has been around 7%.
But in your statement, you said today you did not increase the price of Truvada when it was approved, and I would suggest respectfully that's a little misleading, because you had just raised the price 6 months earlier, and you raised it again 6 months later.
So, Congressman, I understand your point. What I was trying to assert was there was no additional increase to the price as a result of the additional indication.
So let me ask a question in terms of corporate deliberations. I worked in the corporate world for 20 years. When you look at pricing, and when you looked at pricing, did you have a discussion about, okay, corporate profit, we want to maximize our profit, but on the other hand, we also understand our community obligation to suffering people, and so we have to strike a balance here. Does that factor into the pricing of the drug?
Absolutely, Congressman. And there are four things that we look at critically when we price a medicine. First of all, what's the value of the medicine to the patient and society? The most recent figure associated with the disease HIV/AIDS, that it can cost on average $880,000 per patient to treat that disease. So that's given into context. The second thing is, what's the comparable treatments that are on the market today? The third, and potentially the most important, is exactly to your point. What are the access limitations that might be created by setting that price? And we anticipate that in advance. And then the fourth one is our commitment to reinvest back in research, not just for this medicine and not just for this disease, but for other terribly devastating diseases that afflict Americans and the globe.
Well, Mr. O'Day, I appreciate that, and I just want to say I hope today's hearing is something that will give you thought and is something that maybe you'll take back to the corporate boardroom to reevaluate the pricing of a drug that so many people need access to. And I want to thank the chairman for having this hearing on behalf of my deceased friend Rick, your deceased employee, and the millions of Americans who have succumbed to this terrible virus. Thank you.